simple fantasía, es como un sueño y al fin lo encontré.
In the summer of 2009, I headed down to Guatemala to help build houses for people in need. Guatemala struck me with its natural beauty, and I had the benefit of seeing many aspects of it, from the crystal-clear lagoons to the ancient Mayan ruins and the mountainous countryside. But underneath all this was a sad undertone, for Guatemala is slowly being destroyed by its own citizens. Dealing with environmental problems in Guatemala has always taken a back seat, especially when issues such as crime and poverty are ravaging the country. In 2008, Guatemala had the highest crime rate of any country in Central America. Crippling poverty grips 56% of the country, with 3/4 of all ethnic and rural populations living below the poverty line. However, all these problems will only be exacerbated if the destruction of the environment is not reversed. Guatemala is losing its forests at a rate of 1.7% per year, more than 3 times the rate of Latin America. Even Guatemala's protected forests are threatened by illegal logging. Between 1970 and 2001, there has been an average of a 20% decline in water flow in the rivers of Guatemala. On average, 5 children die every day from waterborne diseases. Acute respiratory infections, due mostly to air pollution, were the leading cause of death in Guatemala from 1970 to 2000. Litter and unauthorized dumping are threatening fragile habitats and the citizens living around them indirectly. The poor are most exposed to natural disasters as they are more prone to live on marginal lands. Guatemala as a country is easily exposed to droughts, floods, volcanic eruptions, and earthquakes. In 2005, a Hurricane Stan destroyed 35,000 homes, and climate change is expected to increase the frequency of natural disasters. Already there has been documented conflict over the declining resources and the inversely growing human population. Guatemala is highly dependent on natural resources for growth, employment, exports, and subsistence, with almost the entire population of Guatemala largely dependent on agriculture. The country is rich in biodiversity and natural resources, which combines with Guatemala's cultural heritage to give the country a great potential for tourism. But all this potential is wasting away. If the UN allows Guatemala to plunder its own natural resources, the most poverty-stricken and vulnerable country in Central America will lose its only source of survival. If the UN does not act now, Guatemala will only become a larger problem in the future. With the explosiveness of South and Central America presently, due to the declining global market and war on drugs, Guatemala would be a country worth keeping afloat. Due to Guatemala's situation, a fix would seem nearly impossible, but as a visitor to Guatemala, it seems to be more of a lack of understanding of the situation than a pure disregard for the environment. The government likewise is painfully ignorant of its problems. Guatemala needs not so much of a UN forced overhaul as a simple campaign to bring awareness of Guatemala's environmental situation to the forefront. Already there are instances of citizens fighting for environmental preservation, and with education of the precarious situation Guatemala is in, more citizens would support environmental preservation. Small-scale private organizations have been operating in Guatemala for decades, but it's time for large-scale intervention. A UN-sponsored organization that worked to educate citizens could operate on a local level, while the UN itself could work with the government. Presently, the government is unwilling to act because they fail to see the short-term benefits of saving the environment. Last year, only 1.6% of the national budget was allocated towards environmental protection. The Guatemalan government needs to see the situation staring them in the face. The UN needs to work with the government and encourage them to make a clear statement of policy, priorities, and goals. The government needs to pick up on signals from the citizens expressing needs or problems, especially in poverty-stricken regions. Most importantly, give citizens a voice and respond to their feedback. Balance interests so not one group is isolated. Give a series of rules and rewards to ensure the cooperation in the implementation of environmental laws, both at a national and local level. Execute these laws by following through on agreements and ensuring enforcement to give new laws legitimacy.
Stand up straight at the foot of your love. I lift my shirt up. Stand up straight at the foot of your love. I lift my shirt up. I was carried to Ohio in a swarm of bees. I never married, but Ohio don't remember me. Lay my head on the hood of your car.
Hello, my name is Ty Fenton, and I cannot stress enough how vital it is that Guatemala be saved from itself. Guatemala is in a precarious situation, but it is reversible. With a strong, dedicated, and unified action, Guatemala can be turned back to the beautiful country that it should be. But this situation will not reverse itself on its own. We must act.
I still owe money to the money I owe. I